We're living through an age of job anxiety. Not the kind of anxiety that comes from a temporary recession or a short term downturn, but a deeper, more structural fear. For the first time in decades, millions of people are asking a question that used to feel abstract. Not whether their job will pay well, not whether it will be stable, but whether it will exist at all. Every week, there's a new headline. Artificial intelligence is coming for office jobs. AI is replacing creative work. Algorithms are outperforming analysts. Tasks that once required years of education now take seconds to complete. And unlike previous technological shifts, this one didn't arrive gradually. It didn't start in factories or warehouses. It appeared directly in front of knowledge workers. Writers, designers, accountants, lawyers, programmers. Entire professions that assumed they were insulated suddenly realized they weren't. That fear isn't irrational. Every major technological transition has reshaped labor markets. Mechanization reduced agricultural employment. Automation transformed manufacturing. Computers restructured offices. Each time, jobs disappeared, and each time, new ones emerged. That history created a powerful assumption that while technology may destroy some roles, it will always create others. So the debate today often centers on timing. Which jobs disappear first? Which skills remain valuable? How fast will the transition be? But while attention is focused on future disruption, something far more immediate is already happening. Across the developed world, countries are quietly running out of teachers and doctors. Not because the jobs disappeared, not because technology replaced them, but because fewer people are choosing to do them. These are some of the most essential roles in any society. Schools don't function without teachers. Hospitals don't function without doctors. And yet, across OECD countries, the workforce supporting these systems is aging rapidly. Large cohorts are approaching retirement, while smaller cohorts are expected to replace them. In education, the warning signs have been visible for years. Teacher shortages were once localized, manageable with substitutes and short term fixes. Now they're becoming chronic. According to UNESCO, maintaining current education systems alone will require millions of new teachers globally by 2030. Healthcare is even more exposed. The World Health Organization estimates a global shortfall of roughly 11 million health workers within the same time frame. This isn't a future projection anymore. It's already shaping outcomes. Longer waiting times, higher burnout, reduced access to care. What makes this moment unusual isn't just the shortage itself. It's that it's happening at the same time we're debating whether technology will eliminate work. On one side of the economy, people fear they'll become unnecessary. On the other, entire systems are struggling to find enough humans to keep functioning. That contradiction forces a deeper question. Why are some of the most stable, essential professions becoming harder to fill, even as job anxiety spreads everywhere else? On paper, becoming a teacher or a doctor still looks like one of the safest career choices you can make. These jobs don't disappear in recessions. They're insulated from outsourcing, and societies literally cannot function without them. In many countries, teachers have stable contracts, predictable career paths, and salaries that eventually reach or exceed the national average. Doctors earn even more. After years of training, physicians typically make multiples of the average wage with strong job security and skills that remain extremely difficult to automate. From a distance, this should be enough. And yet, fewer people are choosing these paths. The reason isn't that these jobs stopped being important, it's that the incentives surrounding them have changed. Over time, the cost of entering these professions has increased dramatically. Becoming a teacher requires years of education, certification, and unpaid or underpaid placements. Becoming a doctor often takes a decade or more from university entry to full qualification. During that time, students accumulate debt. They delay earnings, they delay stability, they delay life decisions. And when they finally enter the workforce, they discover something unexpected. The payoff is slower than it used to be. Public sector pay structures are rigid. Salary bands cap upside. Progression is often tied to tenure, not performance. Meanwhile, alternative careers with similar educational demands offer faster rewards. Private sector roles scale pay more aggressively. They offer flexibility, and they shift risk away from the individual. This matters because people don't choose careers based only on salary. They choose based on effort, stress, time, and how much control they have over their lives. And in teaching and healthcare, the day to day reality has become harder. Administrative workloads have exploded. Teachers spend more time documenting outcomes than designing lessons. Doctors spend hours navigating billing systems, insurance approvals, and compliance requirements. The work has become more complex, but not necessarily more meaningful. At the same time, staffing shortages increase pressure on those who remain. Fewer teachers mean larger classes. Fewer doctors mean longer shifts, which accelerates burnout. This creates a feedback loop. As conditions worsen, more people leave. As more people leave, conditions worsen further. From the outside, it looks like a labor shortage. From the inside, it feels like an exit signal. So when governments ask, why doesn't anyone want to do these jobs anymore? The answer isn't cultural, it's economic. The real danger isn't that societies suddenly wake up without teachers or doctors. The real danger is what happens when shortages stop being treated as temporary. Because when shortages persist, systems don't collapse overnight, they adapt. Not by fixing the root problem, but by quietly lowering expectations. In education, this adjustment is subtle, gradual, and easy to miss. Class sizes creep upward, one student at a time. Less experienced teachers are asked to take on heavier workloads. Subjects that require smaller groups or individual attention quietly disappear from the curriculum. On paper, the system still functions. Schools remain open. Students graduate. Exams are administered. But the quality of learning declines. And the most important part is this: the cost doesn't show up immediately. It shows up years later, when weaker skill formation turns into lower productivity, reduced innovation, and slower economic growth. Healthcare adjusts even faster. When staff shortages become chronic, waiting times increase. Preventive care is deprioritized. Routine screenings are delayed. Conditions that are manageable become harder to treat. Outcomes begin to diverge sharply by income. Those who can afford private care opt out of the public system. Everyone else waits longer and receives less consistent care. Over time, this reshapes the economy itself. A workforce with weaker education is less adaptable. A population with poorer health works fewer hours, exits the labor force earlier, and relies more heavily on public support systems. Growth slows, inequality rises, and the systems become more fragile, not more resilient. What makes this especially dangerous is the time lag. By the time the consequences are obvious, the workforce that could have prevented them was never trained, and rebuilding capacity takes a decade or more. This is how temporary shortages become permanent economic constraints. Most systems don't fail loudly, they fail quietly. They don't collapse overnight, they normalize dysfunction. And over time, people stop asking whether the system works and start asking how to survive inside it. This is how structural failure becomes invisible. When outcomes get worse, the explanation is rarely framed as design. It's framed as complexity, as trade offs, as unavoidable costs. But complexity is not neutral. Complex systems don't just manage reality, they filter it. They decide who understands what's happening and who doesn't. Take financial markets. They're described as too complicated for regular people to understand, too technical, too abstract. But that complexity serves a purpose. It allows risk to be hidden, it allows accountability to be diluted, and it allows gains to be captured long before losses are visible. When markets boom, success is framed as innovation. When they crash, failure is framed as surprise. No one intended this. No one could have predicted it. No one is responsible. And yet the same pattern repeats. Speculation grows, leverage increases, risk concentrates. When it works, profits are private. When it breaks, losses are shared. This isn't dysfunction, this is incentive alignment. Because in a system where downside is socialized, taking risk becomes rational. From the inside, this looks efficient. From the outside, it looks broken. And that difference in perspective matters. Because systems don't need to work for everyone to survive. They only need to work for the people with power to keep them in place. This is why fixing systems is rarely a technical problem. We already know how to make housing cheaper. We know how to simplify healthcare. We know how to reduce financial fragility. The reason these fixes don't happen isn't ignorance, it's resistance. Every system creates winners. And once those winners are entrenched, change becomes politically expensive. So reforms are softened, delayed, redefined, until they no longer threaten the structure itself. This is why so many reforms feel cosmetic. They adjust the surface without touching the incentives underneath. And over time, people sense this. They may not articulate it in economic terms, but they feel it in outcomes. Stagnant wages, rising costs, shrinking opportunity. When enough people stop believing a system works for them, they don't ask for optimization. They ask for replacement. And history shows what happens next. Systems don't collapse because they're criticized. They collapse when legitimacy evaporates. So the next time you hear that a system is broken, don't ask how to fix it. Ask something more uncomfortable. Broken for who?